Good afternoon and welcome back to From the Wings. I'm Stephanie Freed and I am delighted that you're able to join us today. As you may have seen on our social media channels this week, we have been celebrating Volunteer Appreciation Week. This is the time each year that we get to shout out and celebrate our amazing group of Bushnell volunteers. I have to tell you, when you see that list of volunteers, the sheer volume of it, it's amazing. But then when you learn how many of those volunteers have been doing it for years, truly years and years, it's awe-inspiring. And I am really looking forward to talking today and taking a deeper look into our fantastic Bushnell volunteers and the volunteer program. But before we begin that conversation, I have two things I want to note. The first is a reminder that we've added a special segment to the end of each of these episodes called our Bushnell Burning Questions, or our BBQs. If you haven't already submitted your question, you can do so in the comments of this broadcast, either on YouTube or on Facebook, wherever you're catching us live. And we will answer those at the end. It can be questions about our history, our people, our programs, our building, whatever you'd like. And then if you haven't already done it, like I said, you can go ahead and do it there. And then, of course, I'd like to recognize Webster Bank. They are our official presenter of the From the Wings series, and we are so grateful to Webster Bank for their loyal and generous support, both today and always. So thank you, Webster Bank. All right, so a couple of years ago, we produced a video that highlighted our volunteer program. And in preparing for today's episode, I went back and watched that, and I couldn't help but smile thinking about how much I miss these folks, how much I miss those nights, their presence in the building, the energy that they bring to each performance, and the way they really enhance the patron experience. So I thought it would be fun if I could share that video with you so you can get excited along with me, and then we'll go into the conversation. So let's roll that.
The volunteer program at the Bushnell, it's an opportunity for you to give back to a community. You could be a ticket scanner, you could be an usher, you could be a patron guide, but you're here helping other community members. It's refreshing to come through that door and see someone smiling and greeting them. Some people say, well, how in the world do you have time to do this? And my answer is always, you make time for the things that you enjoy. I'm a theater lover and I love people. It's such a great way for me to just decompress from my stressful job during the day. I've had a number of people come up to me and just look at me like this and say, "You're such a warm smile, thank you." And I was like, oh, you're very welcome, okay. Something as simple as that. I said, thank you. It does really matter.
I think it really is special because there are not that many arts and performing arts centers in the country that really utilize volunteers as heavily, I think, as the Bushnell does. We are the face of the Bushnell. We are the first people that the patrons get to interact with when they come to see this beautiful theater. I really think they see our passion, they see our love, and really make people aware of just what a gem we have here in the city of Hartford. We're more than just Broadway shows. We have weddings, we have graduations. We do a lot of other community events for education. And I really think for me, it's kind of made me more aware of the Hartford community as a whole. I think it's exposed me to aspects of the arts in Hartford that I might not otherwise have been able to take advantage of.
Everyone should have a part in the arts. When you're coming to one place to see something in common with 1,000, 2,000, 2,798 other people to enjoy it, it really, it opens your eyes. I consider it an honor because this theater is so rich in history.
It's amazing because it really is, this is not a job, it's a passion, and I think any of the volunteers that you talk to would say the same thing.
You see what I mean? Like, you can't help but smile, right? Our volunteers are just the best. And some of those volunteers that were featured in that video, I know personally, and they are just as amazing in real life as they are in that video. So let's get to it. Today, I have three guests with me, and I think we're having a technical issue with one of them, but they'll join us in a second. So while we wait, let's bring the first two in. We have Charlie Myers and Jeanette Becker. Welcome, Charlie and Jeanette.
Hi. Hello, Stephanie. Hi, Jeanette.
Hey.
Hi.
It's so good to see you guys.
Yay.
It's so good. I am going to, and again, we're waiting on one more, and I'm going to give it away who it is before he joins us. It's Clint Muller, who I suspect a lot of folks watching today will recognize, even if they don't know him by his name, because Clint is a fixture at the Bushnell with our volunteers. So we'll see Clint in a minute, but while we wait, Charlie, can I ask you, for our viewers who might not have seen you in a previous episode, just to introduce yourself and how you're connected to the volunteer program?
Yeah, so I'm the Director of Events and Patron Services. So one of my roles, and as was said in the video, honors, is supporting this group of volunteers and front of house folks. So this is the fun part of my job for sure.
What, aren't all the parts fun, Charlie? Come on.
Yeah, but this one especially.
This is the funnest.
It is.
The funnest, yes.
All right. And Jeanette, much like our volunteers, while the Bushnell has been closed, you too have been waiting to return. Can you tell us in normal times what your role is with the Bushnell and with the volunteer program?
Sure. So I have the honor of being the coordinator in the front of house office for all of our volunteer ushers and also our tour program. So there's always a lot of fun things, really busy all the time. I'm in charge of training the volunteers, both in person and online, scheduling them. On any given Saturday night, we'll need upwards of 80 volunteers if both stages are up and running. And, if you do the math, if both stages, if we have a Broadway and the Symphony, so both Belding and Mortensen Hall, that's, and for a whole weekend, it would be 5 Broadways, 3 symphonies times 80 volunteers each. So that's a lot of folks we need.
Wow. Right.
And so the scheduling, and that's mostly done online, the communication, lots and lots of emails, and then event planning. So the video you just showed, I had the idea of creating that for our end of year celebration. That's one of the events I plan. And it was premiered at the Yard Goats Stadium, where we took all our volunteers to celebrate. And that was on the Jumbotron. It's the first time anyone saw that video was, 2 June.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I know, and maybe a little later, I think we have some photos from that.
Yeah.
So I look forward to talking about that again. Oh, no, there they are now. Yeah, look at that. Look at that.
Yeah, so typically the end of year celebration is at the Bushnell, and the volunteers get to take over the whole building and have a formal dinner and award ceremonies. But the most recent year was when we surprised them with a field trip to the Yard Goats. And we did all of our awards on the field, and you can see there 100 of our volunteers holding the biggest flag that the Yard Goats offers. Wow. And when I was planning that, the manager who was working with me said, "Are you sure you have enough people to hold our biggest flag?" And I was like, "We definitely have enough."
Do we have enough?
Then they also got to do the high five tunnel as the players run out onto the field. And they got to, a bunch of them who are talented vocally, got to sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
That's fantastic. Oh, that's so good. Well, okay, you actually, that's a really good segue. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts. Do we have enough people to hold the Yard Goats' largest flag? Charlie, tell me, how many volunteers do we have, and how long ago did this program start?
Well, at last check, which was this morning, there were 634 active volunteers. Wow. And I believe that there's about 80 that are on a waiting list that are just getting ready for us to fire up the engines again, which is an amazing number because prior to closing down due to COVID, there were 638. So
Wow.
only 4 people have told us that they won't be returning. And that's actually far below any normal attrition that we'd have in a normal operating cycle. So
Okay.
this is just an incredibly loyal and enthusiastic group of people, and they can't wait to get back.
It's, it is remarkable. I think I correlate that in my role in marketing. I correlate that to the way our subscribers have stuck with us. I feel like the people who know the Bushnell best have stayed strong and stayed together through this challenging time. And it makes me so excited to bring them all back to say thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was happy to see a smaller group of them this past weekend in actual 3D. And they are so excited to get back. The majority of them have been vaccinated and they're raring to go. They're just saying, let me know and I'll be there. So
that's so great.
They can't wait.
Yeah, same here. So typically, or not typically, but in our plan for today, I was going to ask this next question of Clint, but I think there's still some technical challenges. So Jeanette, if I could pitch this one to you, tell me a little bit more about why our volunteers do it. I mean, we heard from Andrea Chamberlain in the video, why she does it. Is that typical? Is it a love for the performing arts? Is it a love for the Bushnell? Why do they do it?
Well, a lot of our volunteers were first just, watching shows at the Bushnell, and a lot of them noticed the ushers and had conversations with them. And I would say our volunteer ushers are our biggest connection to the community. And most of the new volunteers will say that they at one point came to a show and had a great conversation with a volunteer on how they got to be there. Sometimes though, people don't realize this, but we have volunteers as young as 16, 17, 18. And those folks come to us for, needing community hours, and they have a background, they love the theater. But we also have folks that come that aren't necessarily theater folks, but they are just in love with the whole Bushnell architecture, and they just want to be part of the building and its rich history. So all kinds of reasons. But when they come, they quickly just join in and become part of the Bushnell family.
It's when I look at these pictures and you see, these smiling faces and these people who give so much of their time to this, it is such a commitment and just remarkable, just remarkable. So I think Clint might be joining us momentarily, but I'm going to still wait for our producers to let me know. There he is.
Hey.
Clint's in with us.
Sorry.
Welcome, Clint.
Thank you. Thanks
It's
so
good to see you.
You too.
So Clint, the question I just pitched to Jeanette, and she did a great job answering, but I'd love to hear your answer, is why volunteer? And tell us, Clint, before you answer that, a little bit about you and your relationship with the Bushnell and your relationship with the program.
So I've been with the Bushnell as a volunteer, I think this is 12 years.
Okay.
And why we volunteer is we all have a personal love for the theater and the arts. I mean, a lot of the volunteers are actually past performers, wannabe performers. They just want something to do in their lives. I mean, for me, I do have a history with the Bushnell. I came there as a kid. My sister was in the Connecticut Junior Miss pageant. I remember going as a 9-year-old and seeing the Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
Oh, man.
When I was dating my wife, she asked me out on a date, and our first date was at the Bushnell to see the Nutcracker. So, it's a love for the theater. And a lot of the volunteers actually do other volunteering for, many types of art institutions. And it's fascinating. I mean, the people who do it have a passion, and they just love to do it. So.
And Clint, do you want to tell them about the little party we're planning?
Oh, you mean for my daughter's wedding reception?
Yes.
Oh, your daughter's getting married, Clint. I didn't know. Congratulations.
Yeah, we're going to do it at the Bushnell, and they're so excited. And even her photographer, I don't know if it's her videographer or photographer, is just like so excited because she's wanted to do a wedding at the Bushnell for so long, and no one's had a wedding there that she's done. And so this is the photographer's first, and she's just beyond excited. So, yeah.
Are you going to give tours, Clint?
I may offer a few words of wisdom, absolutely.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations to her and
Thanks.
to your family.
Thanks.
So I was going to ask this question of Jeanette, but I think I'd actually like to ask it of you, Clint. Do our volunteers, so understanding why they do it, do they do it like just for a year, or do they commit for, like, how does that work? Or do you find that our volunteers stay with us for years and years?
You're asking me?
Yes.
I find very few volunteers stop after a year.
Okay.
Like Jeanette probably said, a lot of them have been there 25 years. I mean, this is my 12th, and it's like, I can't believe it. You just love doing it. I mean, there's some people who, for them, it's a hardship or an issue, and it's too much work for them. And others, it's like, some people complain that they have to do 10 shows a year. 10? I sometimes do 10 in 2 months,
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
I love it. So, and I think I can speak for most volunteers. They feel the same way.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I think you and I, thinking about it, so I joined the Bushnell 13 years ago this past January. So you and I probably had our first full season together, because I came mid-season. That's interesting. I've noticed, Jeanette, that our volunteers are often recognized under the Charles Nelson Riley Society. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Charles Nelson Riley, it's like a whole circle of life story. He was a teen in Hartford and took a part-time job at the Bushnell being an usher. And so then, of course, he went on to all kinds of great successes, and won a Tony and was on the Hollywood Squares. But he always, I think, had a special place in his heart for the Bushnell, because the very first time he was an usher working on at the second level balcony. We have our first balcony is the mezzanine, and then second balcony is just the balcony, but he referred to it as the second balcony. And he recalls, as a teen, hearing all 3,000 people laugh at the same time, and just be completely taken with that moment, and went home and said to his mom, I want to be an actor. And I guess he was pretty, entertaining as a young person. And anytime he did any shenanigans, his mom would always say, oh, Charles, save it for the stage. And so then he went on to, all these things he did. And he was also, I guess, on the Johnny Carson show, the Tonight Show, a lot, simply because, he was so entertaining, but he lived down the street from the studio. So whenever there was a last minute cancellation, they would, call Charles Nelson Riley down. But then full circle, we open up the Belding Theater in 2001, the newer portion of the theater. And Charles Nelson Riley comes back as an older gentleman in 2001, and he performs his one-man act, Save It for the Stage, which was his mom's quote for him. And it was our first ticketed event at the Belding Theater. And so he has been linked ever since to our usher program. His quote, at one point he was interviewed and he said, after all of this, I'm always the usher looking down from the second balcony. He just always felt that was a big part of him. And I just think that is so symbolic of our volunteers, that they're, they all live very different lives during the day, and they come into the theater. There's always a part of them, that's the Bushnell will always be a special part. So that's that's the link to Charles Nelson Riley. And we do all kinds of things with, there's a monitor on Belding Level 1 where we have all of the volunteers listed each year. And we, also at our end of year celebrations, we recognize them with service pins every 5 years. And right before the shutdown, we were just getting ready to create our 25-year pins for their lapel. Because from the very first year of the volunteer program in 1995, we still have about 40 people that will be celebrating their 25 years with us.
How is that possible? Possible. It is amazing.
A couple of years ago, I started something called the All Stars, where I tracked how many shows each volunteer did. And to Clint's point, he does 10 in, a couple months. So by the end of a season, I think Clint has always been one of our recognized all-stars, anywhere from 45 to 80 shows.
That's incredible.
I look at like the top 15 volunteers, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
They basically live at the Bushnell.
And we truly, the Bushnell, we could not do what we do without our volunteers.
No, we could not.
Their generosity of time, their generosity of spirit, and of skill, that makes possible the patron experience that we pride ourselves on, and that makes it possible to load in and out on a fully sold 2-theater night, 3,900 people.
Yep.
It's incredible.
It is incredible.
I just want to say, so with Charles Nelson Riley, his best friend was a gentleman, Dr. Alan Schwartz.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Schwartz was a dear, dear friend of the Bushnell. He was an ambassador, just an incredible human. And I remember how moved he was by naming of the volunteers under the Charles Nelson Riley Society. So we miss Dr. Schwartz, and I think the world also misses Charles Nelson Riley and his humor. So I just wanted to drop that in there.
Yeah.
One other, as we talk about that commitment, the 25 years, which is incredible, the 40 people, 25 years of volunteering. Tell me what that volunteer role is. Tell me a little bit, and Clint, I'm going to direct this at you. Tell me a little bit more about what your responsibilities are and what other volunteer responsibilities might be.
Okay, well, there's a multitude of positions we can do, and we don't really know what we're getting until we actually go that evening for the show. But some of the positions are, and again, we're the first face of the Bushnell. I'm sure someone has already mentioned that. We ensure that patrons have a outstanding and very safe evening. Ticket scanners, again, they're the first ones greeting. We ensure proper entry and access to the building, and sometimes we even have to direct people to the box office. Another position is usher, which is obviously one of the main ones. We welcome patrons into the theater. We show patrons to their seat. We answer any questions they may have. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the show, we scan the seats for any left belongings and bring them to customer service for people to retrieve later. Patron guide. This is a very important position in that it provides directions throughout the Performing Arts Center. The most common question we get is, where's the bathroom? And luckily we all know where they are. And then we answer any general questions that people may have. And we do get, quite a few questions in that regard. Prompter greeter. These are the people who are just outside the orchestra level. They welcome patrons from the lobby into the theater. And they hand out the prompter programs, which is our version of the Broadway's playbill. Coat check. These are people who, in inclement weather, they'll check in coats, hats, umbrellas, you name it, they'll check it in, give you a ticket. At the end of the show, you claim the ticket. We pass you back out your belongings.
Unsung heroes, those check folks. Unsung heroes.
Sometimes that can get kind of crazy.
Crazy, especially winter in Connecticut.
Yeah, when there's
crazy.
When 200 people suddenly flock the thing and say, I want my coat now. Yeah, it can get crazy. The last one is, which I'm a little passionate to, is there's about a dozen of us that are tour guides. And we provide a 90-minute tour throughout the entire complex.
There's you doing our digital tour right there.
Yeah, that was a bit a digital one, yes. It includes both stages, the star's dressing room, an autograph room, reception space, you name it, we cover it all. Tours can be specific. I did a tour for a couple that got engaged. And we worked it out with other volunteers, so they kind of hid and took pictures while the couple was on stage alone, going through the proposal. We've had a number of years, we've had a Katharine Hepburn tour where this group from the South, I think it's Alabama, they come up every year and they want to see everything Katharine Hepburn. So we walk out on the stage and say, my God, what a barn. That's kind of what they said.
Yes.
Katharine Hepburn was a local girl, so she kind of claimed ownership to the theater pretty much. And in the autograph room, she signed it local girl. Sometimes there's an architectural tour. And the interesting thing is most people, what I enjoy the most is, most people are so amazed at the history, the architecture. I had people say to me, I walk by this building every day and I had no idea what was inside here. They were amazed. And it's quite spectacular to see people's, they'll walk in the mezzanine and see the whole Art Deco interior and just go, wow, It's quite amazing. So that's I'd say that's pretty much it. One thing I do want to mention is a lot of times patrons come and this is the first time they're walking into this theater, and we have to be cognizant of that. We want them to be returning customers, so we make sure that we do treat them right. And just one thing I wanted to say was this was from the West Hartford Elementary recital or music festival in West Hartford. One thing their host said, and it always stuck with me. He said, "The following greats have appeared on the stage," and he's addressing the audience: Katharine Hepburn, Carol Channing, Mickey Rooney, Walter Cronkite. The list goes on. And tonight, your children.
Oh.
And when he said that, I just got goosebumps. So it's quite impressive. And I try to, when I take people on a tour, I let them know that they're standing where all the greats stood as well.
It is. It's, I think that's a wonderful point just about the Bushnell, that you share space with these amazing people when you're there for a performance or a lecture. And we all become part of that, and the ability for the Bushnell to be able to host things like the West Hartford Interrel program or high school graduations, and our volunteers being part of that creates, again, this shared experience that makes us all part of something bigger than ourselves, which I love. Jeanette, listening to Clint, hearing his passion both for the Bushnell and for being a volunteer and a tour guide is really inspiring to me. I have to imagine in your role working with all of these incredible volunteers that there have to be moments that stand out to you as points of inspiration. Can you give us an example of one?
Yeah, so there's so many to choose from, but seeing Clint on stage reminds me of there's a lot of tour memories, and one that happened about a year ago or 2 years ago, our tour guide Jeffrey Greer and I had a group of seniors right on stage at the Mortensen Hall, and they were all reminiscing about different performances. And whenever we get them on stage, like Girl Scouts, all ages, we will always say to them, "Oh, if you want to sing or dance," or I've had little girls throw cartwheels on the stage, but this is your time to shine. And one of the ladies had a background in dancing and started talking about that so longingly and remembering. And so Jeffrey, our tour guide, offered to dance with her. So they just like that.
Look at them
on the stage together.
Look at them.
And one of the gentlemen got the entire group singing "I Could Have Danced All Night, I Could Have Danced All Night." And it was really a memorable experience for me. I just loved every minute of it, and was, thank goodness, thought to pull out my phone so I could capture it.
I am so glad you did. Listen to them sing. Oh, that I am confident made her their day, week, month, year. What an amazing experience.
It really was.
Oh, I love that you have that, and you were so clever to bring out your phone to video that. So Charlie, this dedicated group that we're talking about, how are they weathering the pandemic? Are they ready to come back? Are they hesitant to come back? What's the feeling?
As I mentioned before, I think that they're raring to go.
Yeah.
We talked to them several months ago, and there was a lot of questions and concerns about coming back into a theater in this COVID world. And things have definitely changed and come along, particularly with vaccinations.
Sure.
So I think that there's a lot of enthusiasm to come back. There's still questions. There's still legitimate concerns that I think we all have. And there's going to be, I think, a process of getting comfortable again, being in large groups of people. I think our volunteers, our patrons, our staff, our performers are all going to have that same experience. But I do think that there's a real eagerness to get back into the theater and to have that energy and experience. And for people, it's sort of worth the risk to step into that environment, because the payoff is huge. I mean, that feeling that everybody has talked about is huge, and we all miss it. It's not something that we can do without in our lives.
No.
They've all expressed that.
Yeah.
Every time I talk to folks, they say it collectively as a group. So I think that when all of you as patrons come back, you're going to see a lot of very enthusiastic, smiling faces.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait for them to be back. I can't wait for our patrons to be back. I can't wait to be back. I miss my office. I miss my colleagues. But we're going to get there. So, okay, and we're almost up on our time, but I want to make sure I get this in. Jeanette, if I am watching at home and I'm thinking to myself, man, I want to be a part of this, what can I do?
Well, all are welcome to apply. So if you are interested, you can visit our website, bushnell.org. And if you navigate your way to the volunteer page under the category About, there is an online application that you can click on, and it is live right now. Like Charlie mentioned earlier, we do have 80 new volunteers that will be joining us for the new season. Every year we train a new group, but we are always excited to have more folks join us the following season. So we already kind of have folks go for this next season, and we might have openings though based on what's happened, but you can still apply always. It's always ongoing.
And there's an onboarding process. It's not like you apply, we give you your vest and say, let's go.
Yeah,
like,
no, there's
a
a big training process, and you are given a mentor, and then I talk to you on the phone for a length of time, and then we kind of scaffold from there. So
okay. Well, Clint, Charlie, and Jeanette, this was so great. I was so glad to spend this time with you. Thank you for being here. And Clint, thank you so much for your service as a volunteer.
Oh, my pleasure. Can't say
All
enough.
right.
Yeah, for all you volunteers out there, happy National Volunteer
Happy
Appreciation
National
Week.
Volunteer Appreciation Week.
Happy Appreciation Week.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Okay, everyone. That was wonderful. I miss those people so much, as I'm sure you do too. Let's, though, quickly, before we run out of time, get to our Bushnell Burning Questions segment from today's episode. Shannon, what questions do you have? Okay, from a health and safety perspective, when are we going to know more about what things are going to look like once the Bushnell reopens? That is an excellent question. Our next From the Wings episode is going to be all about health and safety. Now, spoiler, I'm not going to be able to tell you in 2 weeks exactly what it's going to look like when it's time to return. But I do want to bring some folks in to share with you all the work we're doing to get ready for that. The emphasis we're putting on your health and safety up front, and preparing our building to be a building that keeps your safety front of mind. So we'll have that conversation in 2 weeks. We'll know a little bit more then, and there'll be ongoing communication up through to when we reopen, and then as things evolve, because man almighty, I have to imagine that things are going to continue to evolve as they have over the last, 14 months. So what is our next question? Is the Ensign Darling program coming back? From Emily. Hi, Emily. So the Ensign Darling Vocal Fellowship program has never left. It was a little quieter this year, I think, because it was all virtual. We do anticipate there being a concert in June. It'll be a virtual concert. And so I believe that will be shared broadly, so you'll be able to watch it. I had a moment, because you sent your question early, thank you. And I had a moment to talk with our Senior Vice President for Education and Community Outreach, Yolande Spears, who is amazing, y'all. I can't wait to have her on an episode of From the Wings. But anyway, she shared with me that the Bushnell remains committed to our talent development programs. She talked about from Ensign Darling Vocal Fellowship to our Noah Webster Jazzicians program, which teaches elementary school students about jazz and playing instruments, creating jazz music, and that we are continuing our focus on that. I do think, based on what she said, that we're going to see some evolution in those programs, but vocal training, I think she's talking about adding dance in, those will remain a part of it. So EDVF is still a thing today, but it's going to evolve as we continue to meet the needs of our community tomorrow. So I hope I answered your question. If you have questions, further questions about that, Emily, don't hesitate to shoot me an email. You can email me at sfried, so Stephanie Fried, sfried@bushnell.org. I think even if we have more questions, unfortunately, I'm going to have to hold them for next time because we are out of time. So I want to say thank you so much. And as we wrap up today's conversation, just a reminder that during this extended intermission, while we wait for Broadway to come back to the Bushnell and for our doors to open again, we depend on private support now more than ever. We are especially grateful for the continued commitment of Webster Bank and our intermission partners. On your screen now are many of our current corporate and foundation supporters, and it's thanks to their generosity and the support of our individual donors that we're able to continue our work to bring the very best in arts education and the performing arts, both virtually and when the time is right and it's safe to do so, live on our stages and in our classrooms. And of course, as we've discussed, support, your support through individual giving, whether it's your subscriptions or individual ticket purchases or your annual fund gift or the word of mouth of you sharing the experiences you have at the Bushnell and encouraging others to join you to come to a show. Those all matter, and they make it possible for us to be ready to open when the time is right. So if you would like to consider making a gift, whether you're renewing your existing annual fund gift, or maybe you're making your very first one, I encourage you to do so by visiting us at bushnell.org/donate now. And it wouldn't be a From the Wings if I didn't remind you to sign up for our e-club to get all the latest and greatest information from us at the Bushnell. We promise not to overwhelm you with emails. You can look forward to our Friday curtain call email, which gives you ideas for arts-related things you could do over the weekend or plan for in the future, and just keeps you up to date on what we've got going on. You can do that by visiting us at bushnell.org/e-club. And then finally, I hope you'll join us in 2 weeks' time for that May 6th episode I mentioned, where we're going to talk about a healthy and safe return to the Bushnell. You'll see Charlie again, and then I'll have a few other special guests, and I look forward to seeing you there then. And until then, thank you for joining me, and take good care.